Good afternoon. We're excited to be here for today's announcement. I want to thank Sean Hamilton, our Secretary for DEP, for being with us, as well as Eric Eichenberg, CEO of the Everglades Foundation, Chauncey Goss, the Chairman of the South Florida Water Management District Board. We also, is Cheryl Meads here? I didn't see her. Okay, Cheryl's here on the board. Scott Wagner's here. We have Rodney Barretto, Chairman of our Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. We have Kelly Ralston, VP Conservation and Public Policy for Bonefish and Tarpon Trust. And do we have American Flood Coalition here? Kate? Okay, good. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. Well, we're excited to be here. When we first did our initiatives on the environment at the beginning of 2019, I had said that if I was governor, I would do a lot. I'd make it a priority. But, I think most people, while they appreciated that, they just assume people always say that to get elected. They don't do anything about it. So we came in and we set a bold vision right off the bat. It was very ambitious in a number of respects, policy-wise, all that. But funding, we were proposing that over the 4 years, we would do $2.5 billion for Everglades restoration and water resources. And that was $1 billion more than what had been done in the previous 4 years. And so I think a lot of people were like, great, we appreciate the thought, it's a great idea. We just don't think it's likely going to happen. And so we went out systematically for the last few years, pursuing the agenda, getting legislative buy-in, and the result has been we've actually secured more at this point than we had initially even promised to do. And what I'll announce today will put us far beyond that initial goal. So they say under promise and over deliver. Well, I think what we did, I think we over promised, but we still over delivered, and that's even harder to do. So today for our budget, governor's budget recommendations, I'll be doing the full budget out probably at the beginning of December, but we have certain sections of the budget that are done. I announced our education portion of the budget yesterday, increased teacher pay, money to get rid of the FSA and go to progress monitoring. We're doing the bonuses, $1,000 for principals and teachers again, and a lot of other really good stuff. So we are proud about that. Our environment budget's probably the robust we've ever had it, certainly since I've been governor. I would argue anytime in Florida. Part of the reason we're able to do this is because the state is strong. The state's on good financial footing. We kept Florida open when many people were criticizing us for doing that. The result has been we saved hundreds of thousands of jobs, thousands of businesses, and we've got revenue coming in strong because we have solid underlying dynamics in our economy. And so we're proud of doing that. So today, I'm happy to be able to say in our budget recommendations, we will have more than $960 million for Everglades and water quality funding, which is far more than anyone thought we could do. So our ambitious goal was $2.5 billion for those items over 4 years. If we're able to get something similar to this enacted in the next legislative session, we actually will hit about $3 billion. That means in these 4 years, we will have doubled the amount of money going to Everglades and water resources compared to the previous 4 years. So that's a huge sea change, and we're proud of that. Of the $960, $660 million will be earmarked for Everglades restoration, $175 million for targeted water quality improvements, $40 million for alternative water supply grant program, $50 million for our continuing efforts to restore Florida's world-renowned springs. We are increasing the amount of money for python removal. So we're now doing $3 million. And I told them, I'll do more. If there's new gizmos that come out that'll find these things easier, I will fund that. And so this is just kind of a placeholder. I told Rodney, let us know as things go on if there's anything more that we can do. Because one, I think people just want to go in and find the pythons. People like doing it for sport. It's a big deal. People come from all over the world to do the pythons. But I also think, it makes the Everglades much healthier to get these things out of there. They don't belong there. They should have never been there in the first place. But they're very, very difficult to find. And so anything we can do to help. We also have $35 million to combat harmful algal blooms. So that includes blue-green algae as well as red tide. We'll have $15 million for innovative technologies to combat both red tide and blue-green algae. But 5 years ago when you had algae, you just had to kind of hope that it went away. Now we have people that can go in and treat this, and actually it's worked very well. I've had companies come in over the last couple years, and so we're proud of that. And there's more things being developed. Our red tide research, we have Moat Marine, millions of dollars every year we're giving them. We have the FWC Center for Red Tide. All of that stuff is getting money. More and more stuff is being looked at to be able to. Red tide's natural, so you can't say you'll prevent it from ever happening, but to mitigate it, I think is something that we're getting very close to having some effective things. We also are increasing aid to local government. One of the things we found when we had red tide, particularly this past year, if you go in and clean it up quickly, that makes a huge difference. And so we put millions of dollars in there in aid to local governments to be able to help them with that. The result was, it'd come in, it would be bad, you get the cleanup, and then it would be much better quicker than it otherwise would be if you didn't do those quick actions. So we're going to continue to support our local communities with that. We're also going to be, last year, we did really something that was path-breaking, a program called Resilient Florida, which really aims to assist different parts of the state in protecting against flooding and storms and all the things that we have to deal with as part of a coastal, low-lying state. And so we did over $625 million in the first year. This year's budget, I'm happy to say, we're going to be able to do another $550 million. So that'll be over $1 billion of effective seed money to be able to do, and these will be projects that local communities will put in money for. We'll then put in money in addition to that. And so that you're talking about things to protect coastlines, to protect against flooding. We have $50 million for planting and coral reef protection. So this is a lot of stuff I think that's really, really important, and we're happy to do it. We also, apart from all of that, going forward, we now in statute have earmarked a certain amount of money every year recurring from the dock stamps that come in for the Resilient Florida program. So I think it's about $130 million just naturally. Obviously, we're using that in here, but we're also doing more. So we're happy to be able to do that. So all in all, I mean, this is a lot of really, really good stuff. We're excited about the progress that we have made. But we know that there's a lot more, that we have to do. We have the Army Corps that is working on the schedule for regulating Lake Okeechobee. When I became governor, I went and worked with the Trump administration. I just said, look, we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're making the investments. We will have the infrastructure in place. It just doesn't happen overnight. So we're going to have that to where we can mitigate these discharges to the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie, and we'll get more water moving south. And actually, South Florida Water Management, they're moving a lot more water south than they used to be able to do, and we're going to do more. But if that lake could be managed a little bit differently, particularly in the wet season, so that they're not sending all this algae out to the coast, that would really be a more balanced approach that would be good. And the result has been really over the 3 summers I've been governor, we've had relatively minimal discharges compared to what we have seen before. This new regulation schedule, I hope, will recognize that we need a balanced approach, recognize that one of the criteria should be to try to minimize harmful discharges. And if that can be done in the short term, as we're continuing to put in the infrastructure needed to be able to make sure water is flowing in the right direction, we're going to be in pretty good shape. And so hopefully we get something. We've put our 2 cents in. I know the different folks in Florida, the Congress people, all the stuff have worked with the Army Corps. I know DEP, South Florida Water Management has been working with them. But that'll be something that'll be really, really positive if it's balanced, and it can really provide us a pathway so that all these things get done. And then we'll be in a situation where, those discharges are not going to be something that are going to be as concerning as they have been in recent years. Okay, I want to have Sean Hamilton come up.
Thank you, Governor. As the new secretary, I would like to take credit for this budget, but we know it's because of his great leadership and his vision and the bold commitment to our environment is the reason we're here today. And I just want to say, It's an honor to obviously to be a secretary at the time when you've got the support of funding, but also when you got the partnerships like I see out there today. I would like to acknowledge our Chief Science Officer, Mark Raines, who here today, who leads the Blue-Green Algae Task Force, again, who played a critical role in some of the foundation of some of the programs we'll talk about. But during the past 3 years, the governor talked about it, right? He made a bold vision to commit 2.5 in the early phases of his administration. But to realize that and surpass it also sets an incredible foundation going forward. And so our goal is to deliver on that commitment and continue to make sure we're good stewards of that funding and make sure we do more now for our environment. One of the things I want to draw your attention to, sometimes when you look at a multi-phase project like this, you lose focus of how much is happening. You lose focus of the commitment of our partners at the Water Management District, the Corps, everything they're doing day in and day out to bring to fruition the infrastructure that the governor mentioned to allow us to move water in more places. So I just want to highlight those just a little bit. So over the past 3 years, we've broken ground on various projects, but we set priorities for our projects. So within that scope of just those few years of the governor's administration, 37 Everglades Western projects have broken ground, hit major milestones of finished construction. Again, that's 37. And again, it's to me, I kind of view that as a generational pace. I feel like now we're on a pace that really sets us to a vision, to a milestone that at least in our lifetime, we'll start to see some of the vision that's been dreamed about for so many years as this infrastructure comes online. And in 2022, as a result, in 2022, we will, under the governor's leadership, we will have broken ground on 15 of the most critical projects associated with the Everglades restoration. Again, I can't speak and I can't communicate to you the importance of moving those projects forward and the commitment and how that realizes the value for all of South Florida as we're able to move water more effectively. Additionally, we have implemented water projects to restore springs, all of our critical infrastructure, advanced wastewater infrastructure that will remove nutrients from our waterways. We've also utilized grant programs to help communities do things like septic to sewer conversions, all of which will add to the role of removing nutrients from our waterways so we can have better and cleaner water as we look into the future. Governor, thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your bold vision. Again, as we look to fortify our environment for the future, and we look forward to supporting you and the legislature in this upcoming session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Eric Eichenberg, Everglades Foundation.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. What a beautiful backdrop to be celebrating yet again the importance of America's Everglades, a national treasure right here in our own backyard, and to have a governor who is once again delivering on a promise. I go back to it's great to see some other guests here. I go back to January 10th, 2019, where the governor laid out a very bold set of efforts, promises, commitments to our environment, commitments to the Everglades, and 1,042 days later, here we are on the banks of the River of Grass, America's Everglades, where once again he has stood up and said that we are going to invest critical dollars to build infrastructure. This is water-based infrastructure. This is natural infrastructure. This is infrastructure that we need for our water supply. A third of the state relies upon the Everglades for drinking water alone. And this governor has done it time and time again. And not only did he call for this type of funding, the type of funding that will build a reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee that has been 21 years in the waiting. And it wasn't until Ron DeSantis said we were going to make this a priority, and he's done that. He did that by appointing the men and women who make up the governing board of the South Florida Water Management District, who are doing a tremendous job to implement this comprehensive Everglades plan. And this plan that was signed in 2000 set out a 30-year time frame. Under this governor's leadership, we are in that third and hopefully final decade to restore America's Everglades and pass it on for perpetual protection. The governor in the spring also called for a balanced approach to Lake Okeechobee. And not just the fact that we have historic funding here today, but because of his guidance, we're also going to have a generational change in the way water is managed from Lake Okeechobee. reductions of the harmful discharges that he talked about, that not only kill the environment, but they hurt the economy. And time again, we suffered through that, but this administration has stepped up to make that difference and to change course. And this Lake Okeechobee manual will be the next step in that process. And because of this investment that's unveiled today, these dollars will go towards infrastructure that will deliver water south to the Everglades and ultimately to Everglades National Park and to Florida Bay. We're delighted to be here with you, Governor. Thank you for your leadership, and long live the Everglades.
All right, thank you. I'll bring up Chauncey Goss. Eric had mentioned, we came in and, yes, did the executive order, called for policy change, called for funding, but we also called for a new board members of South Florida Water Management District. I mean, that was a big deal. We've gotten a lot of folks in there, and I think they've done a really, really good job, and I think Chauncey's done a really good job. So, Chauncey, come on up.
Well, thank you very much, Governor. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm Chauncey Goss. I have the privilege of being working for the South Florida Water Management District and being their chairman. I'm here with the vice chairman, and Cheryl Meads, who's also here. Thank you very much for being here. Scott Wagner, who's our vice chairman. The Water Management District works very closely with the Secretary and works very closely with DEP in the biggest ecosystem restoration project in the entire world. It's restoring America's Everglades. It's a huge deal. We work with our federal partner, the Corps of Engineers, and we work closely with them. And it's a real honor to be able to do that. And we've got 1,400 employees in the Water Management District, and I know that they are thrilled to have this kind of job, this kind of mission to be able to do each and every day. Governor, back in 2018, I remember the discharges were coming out the East Coast, the discharges were coming out the West Coast. You came to Southwest Florida, you came to Southeast Florida, and you came to look at those discharges, and you came to look at the impact that those discharges were having to our communities. They were having to our environment. They were having to our small businesses, to our medium businesses, to our big businesses, to our economy, to the image of Florida, both nationally and internationally. And you said, I can't stand for this. I'm going to change it. And when you became governor, one of your first actions, your first budget, was asked for $2.5 billion over 4 years. That's unprecedented. So I'm a budget guy, and that's impressive to me. But what's really impressive is you can have that $2.5 billion appropriation, but can you execute on it? That's the real question. And the unequivocal answer to that is yes, we can execute on it. We have been executing on it. Those 37 projects you just talked about, that's incredible what we've been able to do in 3 short years, and that's a testament to our staff. We've also been able to acquire 20,000 acres of land behind us that was in the Everglades that could have had oil drilling on it. It's not going to. We've also been able to put together a task force to deal with rapid reaction to blue-green algae. We also have some innovative technologies that we're working with DEP on for blue-green algae. So we are making some tremendous progress on this. And one of the things I look at is not just the metrics of all that we've been doing. They're important to measure, but it sort of begs the question for me of why. Why are we doing this? And that goes back to me to the governor's inaugural address. And I remember he said something that really stuck with me. He said, I want to leave Florida better for future generations than this generation. And I think that has really become, that conservation ethos has become the rallying cry for the men and women of the South Florida Water Management District when they realize the work they're doing each and every day is bigger than themselves. What they're doing is they're working for their children, for their grandchildren, for the next generation, making sure that we aren't going to have another lost summer, making sure that we aren't going to have more toxic discharges, and making sure that we aren't going to have blue-green algae blooms. So we've been making real progress thanks to this governor, and I can't thank him enough for that. It's easy to work for someone who's as driven as he is. He mentioned LOSM. It's the Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual. He's shown incredible leadership on that. He got out in front and said to the Corps of Engineers, this is what the state of Florida wants. We want fewer discharges east, we want fewer discharges west, and we want to take that water that's behind me, and we want to move it to the other side of the street. It's simple. The Corps has got its marching orders from the governor. We'll see what we come up with later. I feel very confident. I don't think that the momentum we have is any accident. Momentum doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens as a result of incredible leadership, and that's what we've had. It's an honor to be able to work with this governor in restoring America's Everglades. So thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, we're excited to be able to continue to press forward on this. I think we've made a tremendous progress. We're going to continue to do that, and it's exciting. And we've, as the Secretary mentioned, we're ahead of schedule on a lot of these key things, and that's something that you don't see too often. So we're really proud to be here, and we're really just excited to be able to make a difference in a state that is really unique in our country. And people come here for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is they want to see the natural beauty that we have. So this is something that's integral to our way of life. It's integral to our economy, and of course, protecting it's the right thing to do. So we're going to do that. Okay, you got any questions before I hit the road? Yes, sir.
Governor, you've always been consistent with the whole environment issue from the time you were elected, but recently critics are quick to point out that these announcements feel like campaign stunts, like what we saw yesterday at the Freedom Tower and today. They're also criticizing you for not being in Tallahassee for the special session. Can you answer both of those?
Well, I think when we're doing these, we've been doing this, these great announcements from the very beginning. What happens was when I became governor, I made these announcements. People are like, oh my gosh, a lot of people thought the legislature wouldn't necessarily sign on to this. And what happened was the public was telling them, hey, you better be with the governor on this. He's doing the right thing. So there was a lot of bottom-up pressure to be able to make sure that this stuff got done. And so I think when we're doing this, one, it's just my job to be able to inform the public about our key initiatives. After all, it's their tax dollars that we're using for this. But I think, two, those folks who care about this will then tell their legislators, this is important. You guys have done a lot, but you got to keep going. So I think it's something we've been consistent on doing the entire time, and we're going to continue to do that. Look, I think the special session seems like it's on track. My view, when I became governor, I was in my inaugural address, I think I said, I'm a recovering member of Congress. I don't like to remember those days. I was there. I have people that will come up to me who I serve with, say how much they miss me up there, and I say, I don't miss you guys at all. I'm happy to be down here, in the Southern Command in Florida. But I made the point that, it's not me as governor don't dictate to the legislature. I can say, here's what I'd like to see. I'll work with them. I can apply pressure when need be, but ultimately, they have a role, constitutional role. And what I've done as governor is try to set out key things that we need to do, make sure we're all tracking to those goals. But I don't necessarily micromanage, every little thing, that happens or follow every committee hearing or whatnot. I don't think that's necessarily effective. So my goal, bottom line on this special session is no Floridian should be losing their job over COVID shots. Okay, that's a personal decision that people should be able to make. These are people that have been working this whole time, and then all of a sudden you're going to kick a nurse out of her job, you're going to kick a cop out of his job, you're going to kick people out of their jobs who've been working for some of these big companies who have been working faithfully. That's just fundamentally wrong. And so the legislature is going to come in, yes, push back against the Biden mandate, but also provide protection for folks so that they have peace of mind and that they have the ability to keep earning a living. And I don't think they should be denied the right to earn a living, based on these COVID jabs. And if we can do that, as well as some of the things for parents, I think it's going to be good. I think that's where they're tracking. And if I need to weigh in, I'll weigh in. But, ultimately, yes, we have special session going on. I also have a budget due. So we're working on the budget. Yes, we've done education. We've done environment. We have great announcements for military and veterans. We got announcements for law enforcement and public safety that's very important. So transportation and infrastructure. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we're working on, and we want to be able to provide to the public. So we're going to be doing that as much as we can. And look, if people aren't for this, what we're trying to do, that's fine. They should just tell folks that they're not for restoring the Everglades. They should tell folks they're not for clean water. They should tell the folks they're not for building the type of infrastructure that's going to make sure Florida, has great plumbing, effectively natural plumbing that sends the water where it was supposed to go. I'm for all of it. I think it's important for the state, and we're going to keep advocating for it. All right, we'll see you guys. Take care.